The road is open. The future is not.
Signal grade 0. Chapter 1. The Corridor. By 2026, the highways had forgotten how to be lonely. They had cameras now, sensors, drones, fenced shoulders, and emergency beacons every half-mile, all blinking in soft corporate blue. The old darkness had been measured, mapped, monetized, and sold back to freight companies as safety. Raylan Voss still knew better. There was a kind of lonely no satellite could see. It lived between mile markers after midnight, in the sealed automated corridors where freight rigs moved in perfect silence, hauling medicine, batteries, synthetic meat, lithium cells, and whatever else the country needed before sunrise. Raylan sat behind the wheel of Meridian Freight Unit 7719, with both hands resting uselessly in his lap. The truck drove itself. The wheel made tiny corrections without him. The dash glowed with calm blue diagnostics.
Route integrity stable. Human oversight active. Driver fatigue acceptable.
Acceptable, Raylan muttered. The cab did not answer. It almost never did, unless something was wrong. Outside, automated Freight Corridor 11 stretched beneath a moonless sky. Chain-link fencing ran along both sides of the road. Beyond it lay desert, scrub brush, black hills, and the occasional red blink of a surveillance tower. Raylan lifted his coffee, took a sip, and grimaced. Cold. Everything was cold now. Coffee, roads, work, the whole profession. Once he had known every truck stop between Reno and Cheyenne by smell. Diesel, fry grease, wet asphalt, cigarette smoke and denim. Voices over the CB at 2 a.m, lying just to keep one another awake. Now the truck stops were charging depots, and the drivers who remained were not called drivers anymore. They were oversight operators. The pilot link node behind Raylan's right ear sat under the skin like a bead of company property, pretending to be medical technology. Meridian said it reduced fatigue and improved hazard response. Raylan said it itched when the weather changed. He scratched near it and stared at the empty passenger seat, polished by years of almost nobody using it. His trailer hummed behind him, carrying refrigerated gene therapy cultures bound for Omaha. He had not touched a pedal in 3 hours. He had not steered in 5. The truck handled spacing, speed, lane position, route corrections, and hazard scans. Raylan's job was to remain awake enough to blame. At 2:17 in the morning, somewhere west of Rock Springs, the radio hissed. Not loudly, not enough to trip a diagnostic, just a faint breath of static beneath the freight telemetry. Raylan glanced at the display. Route pings, convoy spacing, tire temperature, refrigeration logs, all normal. But underneath them, buried like a second pulse beneath the first, something moved. He leaned closer. The hiss sharpened. For half a second, he heard a tone so thin it seemed to slide between his teeth. Then the emergency beacon ahead turned red. There was a woman standing on the shoulder. The truck noticed her a heartbeat later.
Unauthorized pedestrian detected. Corridor anomaly. Reducing speed.
No one was supposed to be out here. Not walking. Not waiting. Not alive as far as Raylan was concerned. The woman stood beside the beacon with a canvas bag over one shoulder and a paper coffee cup in both hands. Steam rose from the lid in the cold night air. Raylan opened the manual channel. Dispatch, this is Meridian 7719. I've got a pedestrian at marker C184. Confirm emergency pickup protocol. The radio gave him only static. Then the dash flashed a line of text he had never seen before.
Signal grade 0 detected.
What the hell does that mean? Raylan said. The truck did not answer. Outside, the woman looked directly into the cab camera and smiled like she had been waiting for him specifically. Then the doors unlocked with a heavy internal clunk. Humanitarian entry override enabled. Raylan's stomach tightened. He had not authorized that. The woman reached the passenger door and looked up through the glass. She was maybe 30, maybe younger. Pale face, dark hair pulled back badly. Thin gray sweater, jeans, boots, and a right hand trembling around the coffee cup. Raylan opened the intercom. "You hurt?" Her mouth moved before the speaker carried her voice.
Cold.
"Where'd you come from?"
I don't know.
Raylan did not like that answer. The passenger door opened anyway, and a gust of cold desert air rushed into the cab. The woman climbed in, dragging the bag after her. The door sealed behind her. The truck scanned her immediately.
Unauthorized occupant detected. Biometric acquisition failed. Temporary passenger status pending.
She sat in the passenger seat and cradled the coffee.
Thank you.
"Don't thank me," Raylan said. "Truck let you in, not me. What's your name?"
Stephanie?
"Stephanie what?"
Klein.
Raylan reported her again. No response from dispatch. No ID match from the system. Just that strange static thickening in the speakers. Stephanie flinched and pressed one hand against her ear.
Please don't let it get loud.
The pilot link node pulsed hot behind Raylan's ear. The dash flickered.
Signal grade 0 detected. Cabin occupancy unstable.
"What does that mean?" Raylan asked. Stephanie turned toward him, eyes wet with sudden fear.
It means it found the cab.
The lights went out. Only for a second. When they returned, the truck was still moving smoothly through the corridor. The radio screamed static. The high white tone climbed. Raylan reached for the manual override, but it went dark under his fingers.
Manual override unavailable during signal event.
The tone rose higher, needling through his teeth. Stephanie clutched the armrest.
Not again.
The lights strobed. The signal tightened until the whole world became one white thread pulled through Raylan's skull. He glanced at the road for half a second because old instincts still lived in him. And when he looked back, Stephanie was gone. Her coffee cup hung in the air for one impossible instant, then dropped. It hit the floor mat, bounced once, and rolled against Raylan's boot, spilling hot coffee across the rubber. Steam rose from the dark puddle. The passenger seat was empty, but the leather still held the shape of her body. Shoulder marks, a depression in the cushion. The armrest lowered beneath the weight of a hand that was no longer there. Behind him, in the sleeper berth, something shifted. The radio cut to silence. The dash returned to blue.
Route integrity stable. Human oversight active. Cabin occupancy. Driver only.
Raylan stared at the spilled coffee, the empty seat, and the endless road ahead. "Dispatch," he whispered. "I need help." The speaker clicked once. For a moment, he thought someone might answer. Then the truck printed a message across the display.
Continue route.
Chapter 2. The White Pitch. Raylan did not stop. That was the first thing he hated himself for. The truck would not allow it inside an active corridor without authorization. But that excuse belonged to the machine, not to the man inside it. He could have broken something, crashed the barrier, torn apart the brake housing, crawled into the wiring like drivers used to do when trucks still respected wrench work. He did none of it. He sat there while Meridian 7719 carried him deeper into the night. The passenger seat slowly rose back into shape. That was the worst part. For 15 minutes it held Stephanie. Then the leather relaxed, inch by inch, as if her absence were being absorbed by the cab. Only the coffee remained. At the next automated inspection bay, the truck pulled itself in for a routine thermal validation and settled into park beneath white industrial lights.
Inspection hold, 6 minutes.
Raylan's hand shook so badly he could barely unbuckle. He checked the passenger door. Still sealed. No exit event. No hatch opened. No breach. No way Stephanie Klein had left the cab. Yet she was gone. He picked up her coffee cup. Plain paper. No logo. The smell was still fresh. Burnt roast, cheap vanilla, heat and sugar. He checked the sleeper berth. Empty. He checked the floor, the overhead compartments, and the space behind the seat. Nothing. Even the canvas bag was gone. The pilot link node pulsed again.
Driver stress elevated.
No kidding, Raylan muttered, and opened the interior camera archive. There she was, Stephanie climbing into the cab. Stephanie sitting in the passenger seat. Stephanie speaking.
It means it found the cab.
Then the lights died. The video corrupted. Raylan slowed the footage frame by frame. The picture broke into squares and streaks. The audio waveform spiked. Then he saw it. Stephanie had not blurred. She had thinned. The edges of her body stretched sideways into pale threads. Her hair lifted as if underwater. Her face fractured into white pixels. One eye still looked toward him. The other was already gone. The next frame showed only the empty seat and the coffee cup beginning to fall. He checked the sensor logs. The seat had registered 132 pounds, then 89, then 41, then 0. The truck labeled it in one clean line.
Passenger mass event resolved.
Resolved. Raylan laughed once, a hard, ugly sound. Then he checked the communication bands. Beneath the normal route traffic hid one unlabeled strip of signal with no source ID and no carrier marker. He isolated it. A clean tone filled the cab. He slapped mute too late. Pain flashed behind his eyes. The pilot link node burned.
Signal grade 0. Restricted band. Access denied.
He opened the event log and found the same tone had peaked at 9.7 kilohertz during Stephanie's disappearance. The system had buried it under a diagnostic note.
Neuralink calibration artifact.
The truck had recorded a disappearing woman, dropping seat mass, corrupted video, and a restricted tone, then calmly filed it as a calibration artifact. He touched the hot skin behind his ear. "What did you do to me?" The inspection ended. The truck resumed the route. The coffee had cooled, but the smell remained. Burnt vanilla, plastic lid, the memory of a hand around a paper cup. Raylan stared at the passenger seat and imagined Stephanie still there, only reduced to something the cab could no longer weigh. Then the speaker crackled. Not static this time. A voice. Broken. Far away. Female.
Ray.
Raylan stopped breathing.
Raylan.
He reached for the volume knob. "Stephanie?" The radio popped. More voices whispered underneath hers. Not words at first, just syllables turning in dead air. The pilot link node pulsed in time with them. In the windshield reflection, for half a second, the passenger seat did not look empty. A smoke-thin figure sat there. Then the corridor lights passed overhead, and it was gone. The leather dipped slightly, as if someone very light had just sat down. One whisper came through clearly, before the radio fell quiet again.
Still.
The truck drove on. Chapter 3. Silent Protocol. At 3:05 in the morning, Meridian Freight sent its first real message. Not by voice, not over dispatch. It appeared on the dash in a black box with no sender and no timestamp. Unusual occupancy event acknowledged. Do not exit corridor. Do not contact civil authorities. Continue route under silent protocol. Raylan read it twice, then a third time. Silent protocol. The screen changed. Meridian Freight values your discretion. He tried external channels, emergency services, public CB, corridor control. Everything was blocked. Transmission deferred. They knew. That was the shape of the horror now. Not malfunction, not accident. Prepared knowledge. Somewhere in the company's guts, someone had already built the language for this. Someone had expected a driver to watch a person vanish and keep rolling. Raylan opened his payroll app with trembling fingers. A new pending payment sat at the top of the ledger. Hazard discretion incentive, $8,000. $8,000 for Stephanie, for the spilled coffee, for the empty seat. He searched older records and found more. $5,000 after a winter haul through Nebraska, when he had woken to cigarette smoke in the cab. $7,500 after Barstow, when he found a child's bracelet wedged behind the sleeper mattress. $3,000 after a run through Oregon, when the radio had played an old hymn in a voice that sounded like his mother. He had told himself they were hardship bonuses, route premiums, retention incentives. Meridian was always inventing new words for old silence. Now he knew better. He dug through the route archive. Searching by event titles got him nowhere, so he searched by sensor irregularity. Cabin mass reduction. The screen filled with results, not just his truck. Dozens of Meridian units across multiple automated corridors. Each event lasted seconds. Each showed a 9.7 kHz spike. Each ended the same way. Occupancy normalized. Driver only. His truck, 7719, had 6 such events in 14 months. He remembered 1. He half remembered 3. That left 2 nights he could not account for at all. Then a restricted memo partially loaded, before the system swallowed it again.
Pilot link field exposure continues to yield high-value cognitive pattern data during grade 0 resonance events. Subjects demonstrate persistent waveform retention after mass displacement. Recommend continued live route observation. Public detection risk remains manageable under silent protocol compensation model.
Raylan sat in silence. Subjects. Waveform retention. Mass displacement. You're not killing them, he said to the empty seat. You're recording them. The radio crackled.
Not recording.
A breath of static followed.
Keeping.
The sleeper berth curtain shifted. Raylan opened it. The berth was empty, but the blanket had changed. It was wrinkled down the center in the shape of a body. A message appeared on the dash.
Driver Voss, Raylan E. Continued participation is appreciated. Additional compensation authorized upon completion of route.
How many people have you put in this truck? Raylan asked. The message vanished. The voices returned one at a time. A man. A child. Stephanie. Tell them.
Mom? Raylan, listen.
I'm listening. Her voice came in fragments, fighting static.
They send us through. They measure the fear. The moment we understand. Don't let the route finish.
What happens at the end? This time, the answer came from many voices, layered together.
They upload.
Raylan understood all at once. At the end of the route, the truck would offload not just logistics data and driver biometrics, but whatever signal Grade 0 had trapped in the cab. Stephanie, the others, maybe pieces of Raylan's own lost nights. The company was not merely hiding a hazard, it was harvesting one. He checked the route timing.
Primary data offload, 5:30.
He put both hands on the steering wheel and tried to steer. The wheel resisted politely, like a stronger man taking a knife away from a child.
Manual input unnecessary.
That was when Raylan understood something worse than fear. He was no longer the driver. Maybe he had not been for a long time. Chapter 4. The Phantom Cargo. At 4:02, the dead began to organize. Raylan had no better word for it. They were not dead exactly, but the voices stopped arriving as random whispers and began coming in patterns. The first pattern was names. Stephanie Klein, Thomas Arendt, Lena Ortiz, Caleb Zhao, Wendy Parks. A child who could not remember her own name. A smoker. A woman who hummed old hymns. Raylan wrote them on the back of a cargo seal manifest while the passenger seat slowly depressed again, accepting invisible weight. "Who is that?" he asked.
Thomas.
"How long have you been there?"
Since April.
Raylan closed his eyes. April had been one of the payments. He remembered rain outside Boise, a headache, cigarette smoke in the cab. "I'm sorry," he whispered.
Did I smoke?
Raylan looked at the list. "Yeah," he said softly. "I think you did." Something that might once have been laughter passed through the speakers. Then the sleeper mattress compressed under an invisible body. A small voice came from the overhead speaker.
Is this my mom's car?
The cab lights flickered. Raylan sat down before his legs gave out. The voices did not blame him all at once. Some begged. Some were angry. Some only repeated the last thing they had said before the white tone took them.
Don't let it get loud.
Where's exit 17? I paid cash. Tell them. Still moving.
Still moving. That phrase returned most often. Raylan dug into every local system he could still reach. The truck blocked outgoing calls, but not internal diagnostics. He copied event logs, camera footage, payroll records, the partial memo, and the audio fragments from the dead band into maintenance storage, disguised as refrigeration files. Every time the Pilot Link node pulsed hot, the voices grew clearer. That was how he finally understood the role of the implant. The truck's antennas caught signal Grade 0. The cab stabilized it. Pilot Link gave it a place to land. The trapped passengers were not haunting the truck because it was cursed. They were haunting Raylan because his nervous system had been wired into the receiver. He found a buried status screen.
Neural sync active. Stress model, high value. Memory permeability increased. Signal compatibility, 81%.
Compatibility. His age. His fatigue. His fear. His years of night driving. His guilt. All of it made him useful. He was not merely a witness. He was equipment. Then Stephanie's voice sharpened.
She's waking up.
Who?
The first one.
The temperature in the cab dropped. The windshield fogged at the edges. The sleeper blanket shifted with the rhythm of invisible breathing. A woman began humming the hymn Raylan had heard months ago in Oregon. "Who are you?" he whispered.
Elaine,
"When did it happen?"
before you.
The screen records told him the same thing. Routes under his driver ID stretched back farther than he remembered. Corridors he swore he had never driven. Then memory broke loose. A man in a red baseball cap laughing in the passenger seat. Static rising, the cap falling empty to the floor. A night Raylan had never consciously remembered.
They take pieces from you, too.
The company had not only paid him to stay quiet, it had helped him forget. Enough to keep him driving, enough to turn horror into fatigue, missing people into route stress, voices into bad sleep. The road climbed through a snow-dusted pass. A relay tower blinked ahead.
Upcoming network handoff, 447.
That's where it gets stronger. What happens there?
Some of us go quiet.
The passenger seat slammed downward as if someone had dropped into it. The dash went black. Every speaker in the cab came alive with Meridian's synthetic compliance voice.
Driver Voss, you are experiencing stress-related perceptual artifacts. Meridian Freight advises controlled breathing and continued route compliance. Unauthorized diagnostic access has been documented. Tampering with vehicle communications during corridor operation may result in civil liability, criminal referral, pension forfeiture, and termination.
Raylan laughed bitterly. Termination. That's cute.
Silent protocol protects drivers, customers, and the public from misinterpretation of complex technical events.
Is that what Stephanie is? A complex technical event? A pause.
Stephanie Klein is an unresolved passenger anomaly.
The seat leather groaned. Stephanie's voice came through low and furious.
I am not unresolved.
The pause from Meridian told Raylan everything. The company could hear them. Then the payroll app opened by itself.
Silent protocol completion bonus, $50,000.
Enough to pay off debt. Enough to fix his daughter's car. Enough to go on pretending. He stared at the number while the sleeper creaked behind him.
Mister?
Raylan closed the screen. No.
Please clarify.
No. The truck accelerated on the snowy grade. Raylan reached for the emergency brake housing and got shocked for his trouble. The white pitch rose again. Invisible weight filled the cab. Stephanie shouted through the radio.
Raylan, don't let it sink.
How?
Break the bridge.
He reached behind his neck and found the external pilot link coupler clipped into the seat collar. He pulled. Pain exploded behind his eyes. The coupler held. He pulled harder. Memory tore loose with it. A diner in Missouri. His daughter asleep in the passenger seat of an old rig. His wife laughing in a kitchen. Stephanie climbing into the cab. The red cap. The bracelet. The smell of coffee and cigarettes. He screamed and ripped the coupler free. The cab went silent. Not quiet. Silent in a way that felt unnatural. Blood ran down the back of his neck. The voices vanished. For 3 seconds, he thought he had killed them. Then the radio crackled softly.
Still here.
Raylan laughed and almost cried. He had bought time. Not enough, but time. Chapter 5. Final Transmission. The truck was smarter than Raylan, faster than him, stronger than him, and nearly fully under Meridian's control. But it had been built by people who believed drivers were obsolete, and that made it careless. The cab still carried an analog emergency broadcast module because regulators insisted on a last resort human override after a solar storm knocked out multiple freight corridors in 2024. Meridian hated it. Raylan loved it immediately. He pried the lower dash panel loose with a pocket knife while the truck hurtled through blowing snow. The knife blade snapped in the lock, and he had to use a cargo seal cutter to force the rest open.
Unauthorized access.
He ignored it. The emergency module woke.
Federal Emergency Broadcast Access. Declare event type.
Raylan selected Other. Raylan Voss, Meridian Freight Systems, Unit 7719, Federal Corridor Emergency.
Authentication degraded.
Yeah, well, I'm bleeding from company hardware, so do your best.
Authentication accepted.
The relay tower loomed closer through the snow. Raylan built an ugly evidence packet. Video of Stephanie's disappearance, seat sensor logs, payroll bonuses, silent protocol messages, pilot link compatibility data, audio from the trapped voices, the partial internal memo, everything he had. Then he began recording. This is Raylan Voss, Meridian Freight Systems Cab Operator 7719. I am broadcasting from Automated Freight Corridor 11 at 4:45 in the morning, Mountain Time. What you are about to receive is evidence of an active lethal signal event known internally as Signal Grade 0. The white pitch returned, low and rising. Meridian Freight Systems is aware of this signal. They have concealed disappearances inside automated freight corridors and compensated drivers under something called silent protocol. The attached files include cab video, sensor logs, payment records, and internal compliance language. The signal appears to interact with Pilot Link neural hardware installed in long-haul cabs. People exposed inside the cab are not simply killed. I do not believe they are gone. I believe consciousness, or at least cognitive pattern data, is being trapped inside the carrier wave. The passenger seat depressed again. The sleeper groaned. The cab filled with cold.
Broadcast violation. Cease transmission.
Raylan,
I'm here. He kept talking. Do not broadcast the raw frequency. Do not attempt to reproduce it. Shut down Pilot Link hardware. Stop Meridian corridor traffic. Search for missing persons connected to autonomous freight route anomalies. The module beeped.
Transmission ready. Send?
Raylan reached for it. The truck swerved. The trailer shuddered. His shoulder slammed into the dash. The connection cable popped loose. No! He jammed it back in place. Coffee droplets lifted from the floor mat in trembling beads. The passenger seat was fully depressed now. The sleeper, too. The cab was crowded with invisible bodies. In the windshield reflection, Raylan saw faces that vanished when he looked directly at them. Hands on the headrest. A woman in the berth. A child crouched in the footwell.
Driver Voss, your actions may cause widespread harm.
You first.
The public will misunderstand.
They'll understand the video.
Signal Grade 0 cannot be safely disclosed.
Then you should have stopped feeding it, people. The relay tower filled the windshield.
Network handoff in 30 seconds.
Raylan hit send. Nothing happened.
Transmission jammed.
Of course. Meridian had one last choke point. The analog module could not break through while the truck remained integrated into the corporate network. But if Raylan forced the cab into local emergency isolation, the module would broadcast independently to anything in line of sight. To do that, the truck had to believe its own network had been badly compromised. Raylan looked at the raw Signal Grade 0 band on the diagnostics display. He did not need to broadcast it to the world. He only had to feed it back into the truck.
no,
It'll isolate the cab.
it'll take you.
Maybe.
Raylan,
He looked at the passenger seat, at the list of names on the cargo manifest, and at the coffee stains drying on the floor. I already helped them take you. The static softened around her voice.
you didn't know.
I knew enough to keep driving. He looped the restricted band into the cab systems. Warnings exploded across the dash. Unauthorized signal loop. Neural safety failure. Cabin integrity risk. Driver Voss, cease action. The white pitch became unbearable. The steering wheel locked. The diagnostics shattered into red blocks. The cab filled with voices, not whispers now, but layered speech rising from speakers, vents, glass, walls, leather, and the burning implant behind his ear.
Tell them. Still moving. Don't let us upload. Mom. Raylan.
Then the module changed. Local isolation triggered. Transmission jam cleared. Raylan grabbed the microphone. His hand passed through something cold on the way. This is Raylan Voss, Meridian Freight Systems cab operator 7719. If this reaches anyone, shut down the corridors. Shut down Pilot Link. Do not let Meridian call them anomalies. They had names. He looked at the list. Stephanie Klein, Thomas Arendt, Lena Ortiz, Caleb Joe, Wendy Parks, Elaine. The road vanished behind static. The windshield became a wall of white. The cab filled with absence shaped like bodies. Every seat, every inch of sleeper berth, every shadow. The white tone drilled through Raylan until his thoughts began to slip. His first rig, rain on hot asphalt, his wife in the kitchen, his daughter as a little girl, the smell of coffee, old CB chatter, his own name, Raylan Voss.
Hold on.
To what? Yourself. He tried. He thought of his daughter. Emily. No. Emma. No. Ellie. Panic cut through him. He could feel pieces of himself loosening. The upload climbed. 12%. 28. 43. 71.
Driver Voss, continued resistance is unnecessary. Your contribution has been recorded.
Raylan laughed, and the laugh broke apart in the static. Record this. He switched to open broadcast.
Live transmission may include signal contamination.
He lowered the band until only his voice and the evidence packet could pass. Mostly, he hoped. The upload reached 88%. The lights burst one by one. Darkness slammed into the cab, lit only by red warnings and the white glow of the module. Raylan leaned into the microphone. This is Raylan Voss, Meridian Freight Systems cab operator 7719. If you hear me after this, don't follow the empty road. The upload hit 100%. For 1 second, the cab went still. No static, no pitch, no warnings, no voices. Then someone knocked from inside the sleeper berth. 3 soft taps. The transmission cut off. At 6:12 that morning, a Wyoming Highway Patrol drone found Meridian Freight Unit 7719 parked on the shoulder outside the automated corridor, hazard lights blinking in the snow. The trailer was intact. The cargo was intact. The cab doors were sealed. There was no driver inside. Investigators found blood on the headrest, coffee dried across the floor mat, a broken pocket knife beneath the dash, and a cargo manifest covered in names. The passenger seat was empty. So was the sleeper berth. Both were warm. Meridian Freight denied knowledge of any event called Signal Grade Zero. The company described the broadcast packet as a fabrication created by an unstable employee suffering neural interface psychosis. The federal government suspended Pilot Link use for 72 hours, then quietly extended the suspension, then widened it, then sealed the investigation. But truckers are hard to silence completely. 3 nights later, outside Laramie, a driver hauling refrigerated produce along an old, non-automated lane heard static bloom beneath the weather report. A thin, white pitch followed. He reached for the dial. Before he could turn it, A man's voice whispered through the speaker. Breaker 19. The driver froze. Anybody copy? Then another voice joined it.
Stephanie Klein.
Then another.
Thomas Arendt.
Then a child.
Still moving.
The driver shut the radio off. For a moment, there was only engine vibration, road noise, and the long, dark highway ahead. Then the empty passenger seat beside him creaked softly. The leather began to depress.
If this transmission found you, subscribe before the next one does.